conversations on Rhythmia's Facebook page. We are here today with two beautiful beings, two dear, dear friends of mine, Nessi and Lino. I'm so grateful that they're here. And while we are building a little traffic and people are streaming in, I want to tell you what's going on at Rhythmia. Welcome, everybody, to the loving room, to our love, as we say in Agape, our love stream. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I want to tell you, Rhythmia is open. We are accepting people here every week. We've been open since November. It's easy to get into Costa Rica. There's no test required to get in. The country is very safe. Flying is very safe. And when you get here, Rhythmia is prepared to welcome you in the safest environment possible. We do COVID testing when you arrive. So before you even check in, we test everybody before they come on campus. So this is a safe place. Of course, there's no guarantees, but we're doing 400% more than anyone else that I know of anywhere in the world. You get tested before you come in. We temperature check everyone, staff, employees, 2 and 3 times a day, and then all of the regular COVID protocols. But what that means is that when you're here at Rhythmia, you can have an experience pre-COVID. People are touching and hugging, and you can enjoy the spa and the pool and sit next to people and be in classes with people because we are a limited access campus and it is a safer environment. So we're monitoring, it's safe. Come see us. We'd love to have you. And we have lots of people. Welcome, everybody. I see everybody's coming in. Ken and Karen and Maya, shout out to everyone. And I want to introduce my fabulous guests, Nessi and Lino. Welcome to you both. Give me a second. Let me read this amazing little description of who you are. So we have Nessi, born on the tiny island of Guernsey. Is it Guernsey? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
To a Portuguese family. She is a British singer, songwriter, and channels influences from both sides of her ethnicity, blending the essence of the traditional, emotional, and larger-than-life fado folk music with British contemporary inspiration. And her beautiful life partner and husband, Lino, born and raised in Israel. His life circumstances took him on a long and winding spiritual path. Boy, that sounds like all of us, huh? Seeking meaning to his life and healing to his own restless heart. After some point spent in India, he had put down roots in a community of Pachamama in Costa Rica, where he lived for 12 years. With this inner work and meditation and celebration, it was in the forests of Central America that he met his life partner, Nessi, and a meeting that changed their lives and took them both on a musical voyage of creativity and self-growth through some 30 countries in which they shared their work in the past 6 years. Today, they're holding a young baby daughter. She's beautiful. They're traveling the world and sharing the voice work. Lino is the co-founder of Vocal Odyssey. He's a certified voice practitioner and holds diplomas in relational mindfulness, core process psychotherapy. He studied with the improvisation singers, songwriters, and teachers all over, including Bobby McFerrin, Albert Hera, Rionan, and so many more. And I'm just so grateful that you both are here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, JJ.
Good to see you, man. We miss you badly.
I miss you too. Well, let's start with that. You're coming November, 2 weeks, November 14th and the 21st, right?
Yes,
So,
God will. I think we had to delay it from March, I think, this year because of the whole situation. It's pretty hard now to cross the ocean. And
well, I'm knowing that as things start to, in summer, we're anticipating things will be easier for you to travel and everyone else to travel too. So we're so excited to have you in November.
We're very excited to come back.
It's always just on fire when you guys are here. Like, music is such an intricate part of the ceremony and you bring so much to it when you're here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I have to say that our first visit in Rhythmia, it was exactly a year ago, just when all this chaos started. We were kind of like, the last round in Rhythmia before we all had to take a break. So yeah, it was, I mean, we came to work naturally, but more than that, it was the best vacation of our life, probably. I never seen Nessi so happy,
We had so much fun. I got to tell everybody who's listening, when Nessi and Lino were here, because they had the baby nights, they did ceremony, and some nights they didn't. And so we would get to have dinner while everyone was in ceremony, and we were just like the three of us, and, well, the four of us with the baby, right? And we had the best conversations. That's why I think I was excited for this conversation, because our conversations were just amazing when we were together. It was beautiful.
Yeah, we had the whole dining area to ourselves.
Yes. And before we get into our first question, I want to just acknowledge we've got so many people so excited that you're here. Karen from California, good to be here. Robin, thank you, from Daytona. And Melissa, Eno, Rafal, wow, from Greece. And Deborah wanted to be there this year and come. I know that that all that anxiety, Deborah, is just leaving. Dorota is here, and Jonathan, thank you. Jonathan says he discovered Nessi's music at Rhythmia. And I know you shared with me at dinner how many people reach out to you from your time here.
Yeah, very much. We get a lot of people sharing how, you know, they kind of connected through the music at Rhythmia, and it's so beautiful. I'm so grateful.
We at one point we started to get these messages in the last 2 or 3 years, like daily, like people are like, hey, I heard you in Rhythmia, and we were like, what's going on there in Rhythmia? Is like, you know, it was like a repeating itself, and then it was like we realized that it's a sign that we have a story to learn and share together there.
You know, I think it's this way with so many listeners, right? We feel so personal. We feel like we know you so personally because your music carries us through so many seminal moments in our life, right? So that it's like, even though like you might not actually be here physically, the music your music is so much a part of our ceremony that it's a personal experience for people. So it's like, even though it's like time and space don't exist, you're right here in our hearts because you speak so directly. So this is what I want to ask you. First, Nessi, and then Lino, your story of awakening, your story of germination around becoming fully self-expressed in this beautiful way. I'd love to hear from both of you.
Well, I guess for me, my journey started very young, in the sense, like, you know, in my earlier, you know, teenage years, I struggled a lot with mental health. I was on antidepressants at the age of 13. You know, I was really dealing with a lot of difficult emotions, and I didn't really kind of, you know, my upbringing, you know, it wasn't like there was an environment there to really kind of share what was fully going on. Everything was very much kind of under the carpet. And I think for me, I guess it was just like a kind of cosmic timing. I don't know, like for me, you know, because I had, you know, I was going to therapy, and, you know, I was, like I said, I was on medication from a young age, not for very long, but instinctively from a young age, I just felt like something doesn't sit well with me with that. And at that time, I was starting to write a lot of poetry, and it was shortly after that I just started to experiment. You know, I used to go to my auntie's house, and she had a piano there, and I used to just improvise. I didn't have any training in music. I would just sit there for ages, for hours, just kind of, you know, creating these little worlds through, you know, soundscapes on the piano, and just applying my voice intuitively. And I just remember that feeling, the connection that I got from that. You know, the moment that I started to give sound to my emotional state, to my inner universe, my inner landscape, it was like collecting all those pieces. And I really feel that, you know, for me, singing and kind of connecting to my voice in a therapeutic way really contributed to my healing process, and really led me down that path of being curious and seeking. And, you know, I was very close to, you know, I had some, you know, quite traumatic experiences, trying to take my own life, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, music and singing really was my medicine. And I was very young at that age. I was 15. And I wasn't really conscious of that, right? It was just a feeling I had. And that was my starting point. I felt like, for me, that was being born again in a way. I was experiencing life very differently, getting access through the voice. And it was later on that I kind of studied music therapy and then voice therapy. And then, of course, 10 years ago, working with plant medicine as well was a huge contribution. So, I mean, it's constantly evolving, right? It's, for me, it's a journey that I've always had that longing, that inner seeker in me, I guess, in a way. But it does, and I definitely don't have the answers, right? I'm still learning, I'm still stumbling. But yeah, I feel like, music and not from a source of entertainment, but from a place of healing, that really gave me a lot of tools to get to know myself, to really grow into the person I am today.
I love that you said, I don't have all the answers, because it's one of the things that we teach here about plant medicine is that it's not about having the answers, but it's about being responsive, not reactive, being responsive to life and allowing something to unfold through you and to lead you. And it sounds like that intuitively happened with the music. And then before I get to Lino, I just want to ask one little follow-up question. What led you from that place of you're expressing yourself musically and finding this therapeutic voice, this healing, and then you were led to plant medicine? Can you give us a little bit there?
It's so weird because, well, I mean, it's not weird. I was traveling South America when I was 28, and that continent is so incredible. It's so magical. And I first, heard about plant medicine in Peru, but I never, I was at that's, I didn't know who to drink with, and I had quite a intense LSD trip when I was 19. And I was like, I'm never doing that again. But for some reason, I guess because it was a plant, there was something more alluring for me. I was more connected to exploring that. So I first kind of heard all about it in Peru. And then it was in Costa Rica, Pachamama, where I first drank for the first time. And this was a huge turning point for my music. All my music prior to that, in a way, when I was writing material, it was always about boys or broken hearts. And, but once I kind of met the tea for the first time, it changed my creativity, literally 180 degrees. It was, that very night I went home after my first, ceremony, and I was just writing, and it was really coming from a very different place. And yeah, so I feel like the plant medicine has had a huge, influence on my journey, actually, since I started kind of touring and doing my work professionally. It's really played a huge part in it.
I want to hear more about that, and I want to hear Lino's story. And I just want to, before we do that, I want to tell everybody, please feel free to type in some questions into the chat for Lino and Nessi. So anything that you want to know, feel free to type in, and we can get to those. So Lino, my brother, my beautiful brother, this journey of yours, tell us about your journey of awakening and kind of how that led to you both meeting.
I think the meeting between us was a good enzyme for a serious upgrade in whatever old software I was carrying. that was not serving me anymore. But it was definitely kind of, I think for many years I was looking for a woman, and I was really struggling around that aspect. It was really a source of a lot of sleepless nights. And when Nessie came into the picture, there were a lot of things starting to kind of settle and relax, and there was a lot of, like the dust kind of, went down a bit,
Settled.
settled. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of like, I started from the second part of my answer. The first part was probably that I was born and raised in Israel, and yeah, I mean, different angles, but also pretty kind of hardcore intensity. And I guess I had to compromise a lot of my authenticity, a lot of my individual in the name of, let's say, bigger ideas or all kind of concepts. And I remember really from young age, you know being very, very sensitive, and having a lot of doubts about these big ideas, or the divisions, or the concepts, or all the kind of political stuff. And at one point I really tried to play the game, and I think around the age of 27 I just broke down. And I think I was reading a book or something, and next thing, like a week after, I was on the plane to India, and I discovered meditation and all, therapy and all that. And that started the whole journey inside of really, moments of glimpses of understanding, and a lot of moments of being lost in my own labyrinth, kind of trying to remember somehow.
It sounds like I can imagine growing up in Israel, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that there's a great impetus of preservation of the community, right? This is right, and I think that's what you were referring to, right? Like these big ideas, these big concepts, and kind of conformity within that community. And you were feeling there was something calling you beyond that. Obviously the plane to India, but it sounds like it was that almost conformity that spurred you onto your expansion and growth.
Yeah, I think I felt different somehow. It's just it's an unbelievable place, and on the same time it's very intense, and it's like, heavily traumatized, you can call it. And
Yes.
that's why reacting in ways that often are at least for my very thin skin, was a bit overwhelming. So it, I somehow, even from young age, I had this vision that I'm going to live in England. And at the end, I have so-called English wife. She, Portuguese English, but she was born in the British territories. And
Yes.
and this is where we live. And I always had this orientation somehow towards England. But then, I mean, the majority of the inner work was taking place hour and a half from Rhythmia, more or less, in Pachamama. And this is where the good inner washing machine was taking place for like 12 years, I would say, of good dose of celebration, blood, sweat, tears, you name it. Pachamama is such a beautiful experiment in being a human, in going through these layers. And then we kind of, after 10 years, Nessi arrived, and we met, and that definitely kind of, it took a turn. We realized at one point that we have a story to experience and to tell and to learn on the road. And from that point, we were like, until the whole COVID story started, we were like 7 years on the road, like two gypsies going from place to place, mostly driving, sometimes flights, sometimes trains, and just working with the voice, and working in a way also that we are constantly learning and constantly, on a spiritual quest somehow, with this kind of global family.
Do you write music together? How does that work? Or give us a sense of your process.
Lino definitely. Well, we don't necessarily write together, but Lino's really contributed to some of the, because when I'm writing, I can get quite stuck with certain things. So he's great with words, like English not being his first language. I think he speaks better than me, and he's very poetic as well. So there's some songs that we've kind of written together. Like he's given some feedback and given ideas, and that's really lovely because, like I said, he can be very poetic, and it's a help. But often I'm such a loner when I'm writing. When I'm in that process of composing, material, it's like I need my little cave. I really don't like anybody disturbing. Like there were times where Lino would come in and I'd be like, get out. Yeah.
She comes to me when she gets stuck.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful that you support, each other. I know that that sometimes we think support looks a certain way, but Lino supporting you while you're in your cave, birthing something is just as important, right? That holding that space. So you do work, like when you were here, the last time you were here, you both did a music therapy workshop together. So that's what are the kind of things that you do together?
We do everything together. We are like, I mean, we had to go through a lot in that sense, and that's something that took us years to, and I cannot even say that we are mastering it, but we are getting better slowly, and somehow life kind of didn't really give us a chance, but stated as a fact that we need now to, in the beginning I was her manager. Of course, partner, husband, we got married several times, and different tradition. We never got divorced in the middle, just different traditions.
But you got married in the medicine. Did you do a Jewish wedding? Tell us about the weddings.
Yeah, we got married 3 times, one in Costa Rica, one in Israel, one in Guernsey here in the Channel Islands. Different stories. But and then, being a manager and she's the artist, we were arguing so much. Sometimes it was unbearable. And then we had the concept that we need to separate the professional story. I need to find something to do with my life. She needs to find a manager. But life came and just stated as a fact that not only that we need to keep things as they are, but right now we also need to jump into the whole workshops together. So, we had to sit there in a room sometimes with 20, 30, 40 people doing the voice work. And sometimes, you have to swallow such things in order to somehow allow something bigger than you to happen and to learn from that. And, in the beginning, sometimes, like I remember one workshop of 3 days in Israel, 1 hour before we had such a big fight, and that's how we entered the room, like, like 2 Buddhas. We are sitting there like the 2 amazing teachers, and we want to kill each other, And that's how we were for 3 days. And the participants didn't notice anything. But on the way back, when we were driving, we were like 2 old people, like, I don't want to see you and things. But we really learned through these tough experiences, patience and trust, how for me as a male to accept that her brain, her structure is so different than mine, no less, no better, but just it's a different story to be a woman. And for her to have trust in a male figure that is not here to use her, but rather to support and to hold space, and all that was a big journey of sometimes we were lost in it, sometimes we were on the edge, sometimes we needed therapy ourselves in order to be helped. Like we did therapy with medicine, we did all kind of things for couple in order to be able to decode this, almost this kind of ancestrals or old wounds within ourselves that stood between us and having fun together. But we do get better in that, and that's like, back to your question, this is something that we do in the workshops. We are facilitating these voice workshops from completely different angles.
Yeah.
The way she perceived the voice is very different from the way that I perceive the voice. You know, for her, it's a proper tool for healing. It saved her life. You know, for me, it's a very much kind of a circular social place where I sing here and you're on my left and someone is on my right, and I turn to my left and I'm my right, and I'm just overjoyed with compassion and love towards these people just by singing together. So we do facilitate these workshops together already for like, I don't know, 6-7 years or something. And in the beginning, sometimes it was a nightmare, but it's more and more just like, you know, right now when we do the online workshops, naturally things are more difficult now to be in person. I really allow her to take over, and it's such a joy, you know, because she's really good, man. I'm really enjoying it.
That's such an amazing story that you shared about walking into the workshop after just having a big fight, and yet, you know, being able to bracket the challenges of your interpersonal relationships and give way to this greater thing that was seeking to express to you in the workshop. That's such a powerful place to be, and I think it's really part of performance, right? It's something that performers do, right? To just be able to put aside, to bracket, and you know, the show kind of must go on.
Yeah.
So tell us, can you a little bit about that, as you've grown in this way together, and your relationship. You said you're constantly expanding and constantly growing. Tell us a little bit about what's bubbling up for you now. What's seeking to emerge through your workshops, through your relationship? What are the insights and revelations that have really been speaking through you recently?
I mean, for me, I've been working a lot, you know, with people like one-to-one, and you know, I had a lot of resistance to the online work initially because we're so used to being with people in the physical realm. And you know, since I've been working online and sharing this work, whether it's one-to-one or whether it's the group work, it's really inspired me, because you get to meet and work with people from all over the world. You know, and naturally when we're doing this in the physical realm, you know, you're kind of limited with how, you know, how far you can travel, or, you know, your audience that, you know, you're working with. So that's like, for me, such it's really exciting. And I think, you know, initially, like I said, I had a lot of resistance to the online work, but there's so much depth that can still be transmitted, even though that, you know, we're in different rooms and people are in completely different countries. So I guess it's like, you know, obviously we've been on the road for so many years, and it's the first time in years that we've been in one place for, you know, for a long time. So, you know, I'm not giving up at all on working with people in person at all. Like, I really miss doing concerts, and, you know, I'm really hoping, you know, obviously since having my daughter, I've taken a bit of a backseat with my own kind of creative process in terms of writing new music. And I feel like my baby, she's not so much a baby anymore. She's like a toddler, but, you know, she's like my baby at the moment, you know what I mean? So, but I'm trusting that, I'm trusting my creative fire with that as well. Like, knowing that, you know, when it's time to kind of really apply myself and start creating new music. But that's my, you know, I really want to do that at some point, you know, start to get more music created. I'm loving, you know, the workshops that we're doing. You know, it's just, I feel deeply honored to be on this journey with people. And
Yes, right.
it's really such an honor. And you know, people come from all different walks of life, and you know, it's not, this work isn't about teaching people how to sing. That's like that's not the essence of it, right? It's learning about yourself through your voice. Like voice work isn't about your voice necessarily. It's about your relationship to yourself. And I think, I mean, that can apply to anything maybe, but definitely with a voice, it's like, you know, sometimes people come and they're like, I want to learn how to sing, right? And what they receive at the end is that, well, actually, the message that they've got, you know, is that they came to sing to learn, right? So it was less about actually improving my voice. It was working with what they have in the moment, and maybe just bringing a bit more self-love, self-acceptance, you know, finding ways to soften that ego so that we can really be in our flow and our potential. And you know, it's things that I've collected over the years, you know, my own journey with the voice and what it gave me. And so to create spaces for people to come together and really, you know, unburden themselves and really share, you know, share what's on their heart. You know, maybe some people are coming from very different backgrounds, and you know, they might feel silenced, they might have felt like, you know, they were never heard, or you know, sometimes it's not even about singing, it's just about recognizing and acknowledging the other, and not trying to fix people either. This is not the you know, the essence of what we do. It's not about fixing, it's about coming together, it's about celebrating, it's about unburdening, unleashing, you know, and healing, and also using the voice to pray, right?
Yes.
It, like, for me, it's like, I think it was this writer, Dr. Clarissa Pinkolas Estes. She said in one of her books, when we speak, it's the human voice, and when we sing, it's the spirit's voice. And I love that. For me, that really resonates, you know, like when we're able to just step out the way, when we're not kind of like coming from a place of our mind or ego, and we're really that just open channel, you know, and it's not even about sounding beautiful, it's just about being real and creating a container where people feel safe. Because maybe what people need to reveal isn't, you know, it's not beautiful, right? It's not always about looking good, sounding good. It's just about purging, releasing, you know, whatever is kind of stuck inside. I mean, that's one element of the work, right?
Well, I think the beauty is the authentic expression, right? But I think what you're referring to is that, you know, there's this sense of beauty, like this is the way the voice should sound. This is, you know, all these particular stylistic or technical aspects. And you're talking about, like you said, it's not about learning how to sing, it's learning about your relationship to your voice.
Yeah.
The relationship to your unique expression. And I think that's just what's so powerful about what you're saying, right? Is that it's not another idea of beauty, but it's beautiful when someone's real. That's what, you know.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just loving hearing.
No, not at all. Do you want to add anything?
I mean, for me, all this year, the last year, we kind of completing a year around this situation. It was a lot about, I had, like Nessi, but even stronger, I had so much resistance to let go of our physical dimension of work, which I was really attached to. So there was a lot of grief around that and a lot of struggle. But then also in the last 3 months we do our workshops online, and I was wrong, I was really wrong in how beautiful and deep is taking place. Of course, I'm still missing the, hug the people and be, one shoulder to another and all that, but it's really magical. I think that the question that I keep on asking myself in these times is how can I be for myself and for others in the best way I can? Because those are times when the prayer is needed, when the song is needed. So how we can utilize all that experience and wisdom and vulnerability into a service, into being there for our people. So I mean, the workshops are one side. We had more projects that we did that were kind of around that, but in general, I keep on asking myself, because so many people are writing to us because they're joining the workshops or whatever, and I see that people, especially in the big cities and in the more kind of hotspots, people are going through really difficult times, and that keeps on kind of knocking on my door. How we are as friends, as brothers, sisters around this, how can we create this web, this kind of web of protection, of love, of that we will be able to be one for another there in this way or that way, in this way or another, and not kind of allowing people to to be unattended. It's of course it's a physical challenge and everything, but I keep on having these ideas and visions about how we can lift each other up even stronger these days, because it is really, I feel it on me. I feel the effect on all that is happened on me. I feel the thirst for social engagement, for playtime, for co-regulation, for being able to just have a laugh. I think I'm not the only one right now. So it really bothers me on the personal, but also on the collective. How can we hold hands together, even though there are some physical barriers, and cross this great transition, which it's rough, but I'm really optimistic about. And when you speak about November in Rhythmia and things like that, this is what I'm looking at. This is where I'm. I can't tell you enough. We were just having so much good time in March, but on the same time, there was something in me maybe that took it for granted.
Right.
Like having just a dinner with JJ and having a laugh about whatever, it doesn't matter, and just like cracking each other. Bro, this is rarity now.
Right. It really does go to the point that that this moment is an irreplicable moment. Like, you can't replace it. It brings us to, I'm reminded of the story. It brings us to a place of gratitude for what we have right now, just as it is.
Yeah.
I remember the story of I remember a gentleman in our neighborhood growing up. It was so impactful for me to hear this. He had gotten hit by a car and was, paralyzed. And I remember him telling me, I think I was complaining about having to do my chores or mow the lawn or something like that, and he was like, man, I wish I could take out the garbage. I wish I could, right? Like the things that we, like you said, having dinner, just the things that we took for granted, so that even in the minutia of our day, we can find gratitude, because there's something beautiful about it, and we don't realize.
No, I was so busy all these years, like in fifth gear, always kind of seeing, 1,000 steps ahead. And then I found myself in this year mainly being a father, changing diapers, just like it was very interesting, but it was mainly, and it was really beautiful, because my daughter received a father who was 24/7, which is something that most of us never had. You know, but on the same time, it was so humbling, you know, like from all my big dreams and visions and plans, suddenly I'm just like changing diapers. That's what I do. And, you know, it was beautiful.
You're very good at it.
I'm very good in changing diapers. Yeah. You can put something in my eyes, and I'm like, yeah.
You know, so there was a question here about, well, first of all, one person is saying Oren therapy. Do you know what they're talking about? Did you see that?
No.
Okay. Gabrielle, Oren therapy with the question mark. And then Joe here is asking, you know, do you experience the medicine together or separate at ceremonies? Well, I suppose this is before the baby, because now when you're here, one's got to be with the baby, right? So you can't do together.
Yeah, I don't do ceremonies now. Not for, well, obviously this year we haven't done anything. But in the beginning, before Bodicea, we were doing it together.
I mean, we're still doing it we're pre-corona, let's say, you know, we were definitely being in ceremonies 2-3 times a year. And in a way, we met in ceremony. I mean, we didn't really speak, but she saw this crazy guy there dancing you know, like dancing with the stars. And I was looking at the other side of the room, and she was a mess, you know. And this is like, that was her first time.
That was my first time.
It was her first time. But we just kind of noticed each other among like 200 people, you know, because I was like, you know, dancing my tits off, you know, and she was like, you know, and look, I saw live how the transformation of the medicine. I could see it, because when she was drinking her first cup, I was already probably after 10 years of drinking the medicine or something. I could see how suddenly, like, it transformed the inner of the person, and the jewels and the pearls and the diamonds are coming out in the form of music and lyrics and everything, you know, and this, you know, all this intensity, you know, that we all know, you know, when you beg on your life, when you're, you know, you're like, you know, holding on to a bucket or something, you know, it's like that I could see it in live in her. So I always felt like that our journey together at the end of the day is guided by the medicine. No?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it's like, I think the medicine for me just connected me with spirit. Like, you know, I grew up going to a Catholic school, and you know, it was very driven by fear and, like, you know, going to hell and being a sinner and all this. And I kind of, like, you know, I pulled away from that because I didn't resonate with that. That wasn't the kind of spirituality that I was feeling into. I think I've always been, you know, like I said, from a young age, a seeker. Like, I was always curious. I was always a bit rebellious, you know, like I never just went with the majority. I always had to do things for myself as well. And I feel like the medicine for me it reconnected me to that spiritual quality, that connection to something bigger than myself. And even if I was never to drink again, I feel it. I feel it so close to me. It's given me that connection, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I need it to feel it, right? You know, it's like, so yeah.
And right now I need it.
Yeah, I feel that too, you know. There's a call, there's a time, and yet I feel, you know, I had a vision in meditation I'd love to share with you, because I think it speaks to what you were just talking about. And it was like, each of the ceremonies that I've ever done, like, it was like I had a sense that I saw all these waterfalls, these like headwaters of rivers, right? And they were just like all lined up, and they were waterfalls, and they were all flowing into one big river, and then flowing over me. And I just had the sense that was where each of the intentions that I set in various ceremonies, and that they were still working on me all the years, still all the intentions were still flowing over. I feel like that's what you were talking about, Nessi. And and that this connection is, it's never severed. It never was severed, right?
Yeah.
But the medicine helps to see that truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And now, Lino, you're saying I need some, and I'm with you too, because there's that calling to come back
Yeah.
to utilize this spiritual technology.
Yeah.
So, what were you going to say?
No, yeah. You hear me? You broke a bit. You got broke.
Oh, okay.
No,
So yeah,
now.
sometimes
Yeah.
our internet, here we are in Costa Rica,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's windy. Sometimes the wind
No
blows out.
problem. I was just remembering actually where it all started for me in Nessi, or at least for me, where the vision about kind of us going on the road and doing this work and sharing this life. I think probably in her second or third ceremony in Pachamama, she was singing in the peak of the night. She was singing where everything is like still, but so fully charged, on the same time, like nobody breathed, kind of situation. And she was singing, and I dared to open my eyes for a moment, and I just looked around. It was probably 150, 200 people, and the place looked like that, like as if you opened the window in the middle of a flight or something. That's how the faces were looking like when she was singing. And I just remember this was a moment for me when I was like, whoa, this is powerful. This is like good stuff, We should do something with it, Like, because until then it was only kind of, she was singing in my house in Pachamama, and I was like, I just cannot believe I just met this woman. She's really having like, and I all of my life into music, but I don't know if I ever heard this kind of a voice, And suddenly, we are dating,
It's true, Nessi, when you're here and singing in ceremony, there's something so powerful, and that is not. I mean, the music drives the medicine, right? Always. But the unique filament of your being and the way in which that energy moves through you is, like you said, you found that voice. You found that authentic voice that's uniquely yours and expresses, and that's always beautiful because it resonates with us and it speaks to the fact that possibility exists for us, that we can find our voices. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, the medicine taught me a lot, right? It gave me a lot of more kind of connection to my voice, to really, it taught me how to listen more, right? It taught me to really go in, not to sing from my head, but to really connect to all those really intricate and nuances. Like, you've just got this whole universe that's moving within, and when the medicine's like going through you and working through you, it's like you carry that vibration of the tea through the voice, and it's like all those little textures, it for me, it really taught me to listen. It's really, a quality that I try to kind of invite, when we're working with people, to really, to kind of try to connect to that part of themselves. So less about just focusing on here, but what's going on in that body, in that emotional body, in the spiritual body, in the the energy around you, and how to kind of channel all those different textures and frequencies through the sound of the voice.
Well, I am so grateful. This conversation, I just wanted to go on, and I just looked at the time, and we're almost to the end of our time, and it just flew by like it always does when we're here together. I want to say one thing, because speak to what Lino was saying earlier about the desire to be in community, the desire to be back in person with people. And I'm so excited because that's what we hear here at Rhythmia so much when people first come. It's like I haven't hugged anybody for so long. So this is actually a space where you can have that experience as the world is starting to open up, and you can have it in a safe way here. So, so come in November for Nessi and Lino. Come before then, and before we go, I want to say, I always ask this question, and it starts with a little bit of a joke because you know me. So there's a, you've heard the saying, never judge another until you've walked a mile in their shoes, right?
Yeah.
And I've always said, well, once you've walked a mile in their shoes, remember you're a mile away and you have their shoes. So, but the question is, if you were in my shoes, and you were asking the questions, what's the question that I didn't ask that you would have asked? Or what's something that you want to share or was on your heart that we didn't get to, as a sort of a closing comment? Or something that you want us to know that we wouldn't necessarily know about you. It could be something like, I like blue cheese and peanut butter sandwiches. Or it could be something like, I'm having this revelation, anything. So any of those three things: a question that I didn't ask, something that's on your heart that you want to share, or something about you, or a piece of knowledge or information that people wouldn't know about you. Any of those three things.
Well, let's start with cheese. Nessi hates cheese, but
okay. So no blue cheese and peanut butter sandwiches.
No,
but it doesn't have to be all three. Just any of the one. What's on your heart?
I love cheese. If I would be ending with something, is like, I personally, and we started this kind of before we went on the air and everything. We started with a beautiful prayer from you, JJ, and you really I honestly when I heard you first speaking in Rhythmia, when we arrived for the first time in this room, and you were kind of welcoming everybody. Me and Nessi, we were looking at each other like, wow, he's a dude. He's like, I kind of seeing myself as a sort of presenter, but I was humbling myself. I was like, this is the king, this is like, and what really, it was just so extremely funny, but also heartfelt. And what I want to share somehow is this medicine, the medicine of humor and the medicine of play, that somehow keeps me alive in these times, sometimes. And thank God I have my daughter for this, but scientifically we know today what are the benefits of playing, of just turning life from such a kind of a goal orientation kind of story, super serious, into an experience of wandering, of trying, of playing with the energy, of see where it goes, of making mistakes. And that's what keeps me in these days, in a way that I have to say, 2020 and until now, it wasn't an easy one for me. But in a way, what kept me is this, a quality that I pointed at you, that I really get it as an inspiration, is the quality of humor, of passion for life, of being grateful. It's really easy to be grateful when everything is like $1 million. You get all your candies from existence, Yes. But what life really forces me now is to really acknowledge, the fact that my baby is healthy.
Yes.
Some babies are not healthy now. God bless them. The fact that my wife is bearing me, even if I'm with a grumpy face the whole day. For example, sometimes it can be the opposite. I really take this, what is happening now, and this will be probably my last sentence, as a spiritual quest, which can be really confronting, because, kind of, we don't have all these nice things that were kind of kind of protecting us from the edges of life. Now we really feel the edge, and it's really, it gives me the fuel to cross this valley somehow, and to know that God's will, November will come.
Yes, God willing, absolutely.
So I don't know if it's kind of answered your question that you didn't ask, but this is what came out of me. So let it
Perfect.
be.
Absolutely.
I go to my wife now.
Yes. Anything from you, Nessi? What's bubbling up? Anything that you'd like us to know? Anything that we didn't get to that was really on your heart?
Come on, you have something.
I totally put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yes.
No, I guess it's just in a way like what Lino said, just really it's a spiritual quest. It's like it's getting, feeling those challenges and of life. At least for us, I can only talk for what we've been experiencing. But yeah, and I think also, I guess what I can share, like I said, I really kind of, I went through some grieving process of this year of having to let go of our physical work for a while. But there's been a rebirth as well, and that's really exciting. And it was a reminder for myself, really, just to keep finding inspiration through those dark and kind of challenging moments. And now that I'm doing work online and working with groups online, it's giving me a whole new, kind of direction, which is beautiful. So I guess that's what's on my heart, is to keep being inspired by people. And not to get too caught up in all the stories.
Amen, sister.
It's just exhausting, it's like we've only got this moment, right? We've only got what's right in front of us. Like, even if there's, lots of, that's true. It doesn't matter. What's true for me is my daughter, is my home, is just, getting through the day in the best way possible, showing up for my family, showing up for myself. And I have to watch myself, because I can have that tendency to get drawn into that. But I think that's really on my heart, is to stay in the space of love and connection and trust and creativity. Really, that's a reminder
Love.
to myself.
I was just saying, love, creativity, and trust. Oh, what beautiful. I want to really quickly, there was a question here from Andrea saying, can this medicine help with personality disorders? And Deborah so kindly responded that we're a medically licensed facility, and indeed, we have a lot of data that shows that a lot of personality disorders are physically healed, mentally healed, emotionally healed with this medicine. And there's excellent scientific data that shows what goes on in the brain with uptick in serotonin and the development of new neural pathways. So there's a lot of scientific data. And then on a spiritual level, you're bringing the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body into alignment with the unerring order, harmony, and balance of the universe. So yes, it can. And I want to thank you, Nessi and Lino. I am so honored to count you among my friend, sister. I love you both so much, and I feel so special whenever I hear your music and know that we've had these beautiful times together. I'm so appreciative for you both. God bless you. God keep you. And for that beautiful blessing from the Book of Numbers. It's such a special blessing from the Old Testament. May the Lord bless you and keep you and shine his face upon you and raise you to his countenance and bring you peace. And so it is. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you.
Much love. Thank you, JJ. We love you.
Love you too. So I'm going to jump off air, but stay on for just a moment and we'll wrap up. Thank you, everybody. So grateful that you joined us, and sending you much love, knowing that you are guided by an infinite intelligence and sourced by an infinite power and protected by an infinite love. We'll see you. Jerry's talk is tomorrow. We've got Walking the Path on Thursday. Lots of great stuff coming up. Thank you. Peace and blessings.